So hi guys, I'm live. I know this isn't Wednesday hump day, this isn't hump day lesson day because it's not Wednesday. But I just felt compelled to do a lesson about something I'm learning myself about what I'm about to teach you guys, and I just thought I should share it with you guys. You know, that's kind of like my MO. I'm transparent, and I just show you guys what I'm doing, what I'm doing, and what my process is. So I'm just being transparent. I feel like doing a lesson here. So anyway, it's about the Wiseman chord and how it applies to how the Wiseman chord applies to the 7-string versus 6-string guitar, and how it compares to the Hendrix chord with 6-string versus 7-string guitar, and also the dominant 9th chord with 6-string versus 7-string guitar. So ready? Let's do a lesson. So most guitars are 6-string guitars. This is a 7-string, but most guitars are 6-string. And if your lowest string is an E, then if you're playing an A blues, let's say you're on the 5th fret of the low 6th string. You have the 1 chord, 4 chord, which is a D, 1 chord is an A, then you got the 5 chord, which is an E, the 4 chord, which is a D, the 1 chord, which is an A, and then you do like an E Hendrix chord, which is the 5 chord in an A blues, which brings you back to the 1 chord, which is the 1 chord in a blues, and that's all based on rooted on the 6th string, 5th fret 6th string, which is the key of A, on a 6-string guitar. 1, 4, well, it's 1, then 4, 1, 5, 4, 1, and then a Hendrix chord as a 5 chord. So there's that. But now before I go, the 7th-string version of that would be, I'm on the low B as my lowest note. The low B is my lowest note. So if I'm going on the 5th fret, I would be in the key of E. So a B, and the B string, the 5th fret is E. So I'm in the key of E based on the 5th fret of the 7th string. That makes E the 1 chord. Then A becomes a 4 chord. E's another 1 chord. Then I have a B, which is a 5 chord, an A, which is a 5 chord, then the E, which is the 1 chord, and then a Wiseman chord for the B. The Wiseman chord is basically rooted on the 6th string and similar to a Hendrix chord, but fingered like a dominant 9th chord on the 5th string, but not the same as either one. But that works perfectly for the 7-string blues, because if I'm on the 7th string and my root is on the 5th fret of the 7th string, that would be E. Then the B Wiseman chord would be is the dominant 7, is the 5 chord. Back to the E. So I didn't even realize when I made the Wiseman chord that it would be useful as a 7-string version of the Hendrix chord, but fingered like a 9th chord, a dominant 9th chord on the 5th string. Let's go through some of that technically right now. So back to 6-string guitar. A 6-string, a Hendrix chord starts on the 5th fret. I mean the 5th string. Let's say if I'm playing an E Hendrix chord, it would be the 7th fret of the 5th string, 6th fret of the 4th string, 7th fret of the 3rd string, and 8th fret of the 2nd string. Okay? Well, now the way to make a Wiseman chord of that is slide up 5 frets, but start on the 6th string, and then do the same actually all the first 4 notes of a Wiseman chord are the same as a Hendrix chord, only played on the played on the 6th string root instead of the 5th string root. So if I do that, so far I would have the E would be the first note of a Hendrix chord, an E Hendrix chord. So here now I go to the E on the actual 6th string for the Wiseman chord. The next note is G sharp on the 4th string for the next chord, next note of the Hendrix chord, and the G sharp on the Wiseman chord would be the 11th fret of the 5th string. Then you have the D, which is the 7th fret of the 3rd string, which now becomes a D, the 12th fret of the 4th string, and then the flat nine, the sharp 9, or minor 3rd actually could be called, of G, that's played on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and the Hendrix chord now becomes a G on the 12th fret of the 3rd string for the Hendrix chord. But then the Hendrix chord doesn't stop there. The Wiseman chord doesn't stop there. The Wiseman chord is the first 5 notes are the Hendrix, first 4 notes are a Hendrix chord like that, but fingered on the 6th string. Then finally I do the 5th, which is a B note in this case, which is also on the 12th fret of the 2nd string. So the Wiseman chord is a different voicing than the Hendrix chord in that the Hendrix chord doesn't have a 5th. The Wiseman chord does. And not only that, the Hendrix chord is only four notes, and the Wiseman chord is 5. What's interesting about the fingering of the Wiseman chord on the 6th string is it's the same fingering as you do on the 5th string for a dominant 9th chord, but just different notes because you're changing the strings, which changes the place where the major 3rd between the B and the G string is. Let's do that for a second. So if I take a Wiseman chord, it would be an E Wiseman chord would be 6th string 12th fret, 5th string 11th fret, 4th string 12th fret, 3rd string 12th fret, 2nd string 12th fret. Moving that down to the 7th fret of the D of the A string would give me, if I play the same pattern, would give me a E. Yeah, of the A string, the 5th string, would get the same fingering would give me an E dominant 9th chord. So an E dominant 9th chord played on the root on the 5th string, the same fingering as an E Hendrix chord. An E Wiseman chord played on the 6th string. But it's a different sound because it's different. The strings have a different tuning when you change string position. When you change strings, you change where the major 3rd is. It changes the sound. So basically, another way of looking at the Wiseman chord is just play. If you want to play an E Wiseman chord, just play an E dominant 9th chord on the 5th string root, and just slide that same pattern up to the 6th string, and now you have an E Wiseman chord which also has 5 notes, different than the Hendrix chord that only has 4, on the 6th string, and that's the Wiseman chord, which is important because if you're playing a 7th string and you're playing blues, the Wiseman chord is the second to last string, which makes it a perfect dominant chord to go to for the final, before you go to the final root tonic chord again, which is the 1 chord on the 7th string. So I think that's interesting. So example of that is my song 9/11. I just wrote it today. It's in the key of E, and it starts. I play it the E on the 5th fret of the low B string. So that's an E on the 7th string root, and then an A on the 6th string root, E on the 7th string root, B on the 6th string root, A on the 6th string root, E on the 7th string root, and then a B Wiseman chord on the 6th string root. So if you're playing, long story short, which that was the long story just now. Long story short, if you're playing 7th string blues and the root of your progression is on the 7th string, then a Wiseman chord which is because it's rooted on the 6th string, because that's what a Wiseman chord is. Makes a perfect dominant chord. It could even be a good subdominant chord. It could even be good for any chord, any chord that wants to be a dominant 7 sharp 9 with a 5th, which makes it a Wiseman chord. Move it around even, you know. Play E. I could have done E dominant 7th. Then I go to a Wiseman chord. Back to E dominant 7. Then I can go to a B Wiseman chord. A Wiseman chord. Back to an E 7th chord rooted on the 7th string of the 7th string guitar. So it all worked out, and for the Wiseman chord, it did end up having a purpose and a use, especially in 7th string blues. Which I didn't even see that when I was making the Wiseman chord. I didn't have any idea of it being useful for anything other than 6-string guitars, so I didn't know what it was really going to be helpful with or not. But it turned out it worked out. If I'm playing 7-string guitar and I'm playing bluesy stuff, a lot of Wiseman chords are going to pop out, as opposed to 6-string guitars where the Hendrix chords will pop out all the time, because the second to last string on a 6-string guitar is the A string, and that's what the Hendrix chord is rooted on. So anyway, there's that little lesson. I want to share that with you guys. And hope you guys like my new song, 9/11, by the Picassos. That's what I'm calling myself now. Me and Matt Rader and whoever wants to be in the band. We're looking for a drummer, a singer. A singer could be female. Drummer. And Matt can play bass, and Matt can do keyboard, and I do guitar, and I can do vocals, but so can the singer. So we're getting there. And but I want to say again that the pedal's gotten up to $510 last I checked. The final auction, the end of the auction is going to be tomorrow. The matter is going to come up to my house, and we're going to go live in Studio 666. And the Raderator is the Porsche of heavy metal pedals, the Rat of Rats, the only pedal that has full frequency domination, including the Wall of Ice, Twin Assassins, and Aurora Curtain. And it has 3 capacitors, one for bass, one for treble, and one for mid-range. And that gives you, if you do it right, which Moderator did, you get full frequency domination, because you can control the frequencies. You control the sound at any frequency available, because you've got 3 capacitors, one for each section of the frequency range where we can hear things. The range of frequencies of audible, hearable frequencies. Because the frequencies that you can't hear, some you can see, some you can't hear or see. We can't hear or see X-rays, but that's still a frequency as well, or gamma rays, or some other things. Anyway, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. I'm supposed to, my assignment is to get some sleep, but I also have my creative things I need to do. I'm going to go live again tonight with a surprise for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And but I want to do this lesson as well. And I love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.